Okay, so this is an activity that I'd like for you to complete. It goes along with the last video that you watched on graphs of common functions. And the activity is for you to find the domain and the range for all the graphs shown. Now before we get into this, I'm going to do a couple example problems, and then, or I'll do one example, and then the rest of them you need to complete, and it should go in the activities section of your portfolio. Before we do that, you need to know how to express your answer. So let's go over set notation really quickly. So set notation, let's say that you're asked for the domain. Well, if we're asked for the domain, then what this says is we have these set symbols on the side, and the domain corresponds to these x variable in all the functions that we have. We've labeled it as x as being the independent variable. So since domain is independent variable, this is your independent variable. Okay, now all this says is that my domain is that x can be greater or equal to, x is greater or equal to 0. So that tells me the allowable values for my x. And this right here, don't get too hung up on it. This just means that x belongs to the real numbers. So the real numbers means all numbers that can be expressed on a number line. And all numbers between negative infinity and infinity. Alright, so let's do another example. So domain, this is how I would technically write from negative infinity to infinity. This is if x can equal anything. It can equal all reals. Instead of writing this, you can just make this statement, and a lot of times this will be what you use, and you just say all reals. So domain is all reals. And range, same thing. In this case it says range. Now this is my dependent variable now, because range is associated with the dependent variable. So this is dependent, and you can see I have a mistake right here. This shouldn't be x, this should be f of x. This says f of x is less than or equal to 0. So this would be all of my negative numbers for my f of x, and this says f of x belongs to the reals. Okay, let's look at an example here. So let's look at, we'll do this one for you, the absolute value of x. So the domain, well, we're going to look at this and we're going to say what possible values can I have for x? And if you look at this, there's no limit for the x variables. You can have anything you would like. There could be negative a million, it could be positive a million. There's no limit on the x. So remember we said that we can make that easier. Since x goes forever to the left and forever to the right, we'll say the domain is all reals. And the symbol for reals is a capital R with kind of shade on it, so you can just double trace it. Now let's do the range. So the range, well, we're using f of x, so let's use set notation. Let's put the f of x in there. And the range, you can see that the y value can equal 0, but it can never equal negative, so you can never have a negative value here. So therefore we have f of x is greater than or equal to 0, and this belongs to, let me move this over a bit. F of x belongs to the reals. Okay, I would say that this is the important part that you get right here. This is the main part, that f of x is greater than or equal to 0. Alright, now go through every single common graph that we did from the last video. Once again, that was f of x is equal to x, f of x is equal to the absolute value of x, f of x is equal to x squared, f of x is equal to x cubed, f of x is equal to 1 over x, f of x is equal to square root of x, and that's all. So again, find the domain and range for each one of those common graphs. And this goes in the activities section of your notebook or your portfolio.